In first-person shooters, the guns make the game. Team Fortress 2 is no exception. Without weapons, you can only glare at the people wearing different colored shirts and think angry thoughts. Likewise, first-person shooters are supposed to be fun. So when a tool or weapon isn't fun to play against, nor is it fun to play with, the enjoyment of the weapon and the game itself decreases. So it's important to remember that when making weapons, you shouldn't make them overpowered or underpowered, lest the integrity of your game suffers for it through the complaints of your players. In Team Fortress 2 specifically, several weapons and tools come to mind regarding weapons that are unfun to play against. Some of them are just annoying, some are overpowered, and some are underpowered. And that's what I'm going to talk about in this series. Before we start, let me preface this by saying a few things. When in doubt, refer to these lines. I am not a game designer. I am not confident in my ability to balance weapons, nor am I in any position to do so. I do not know which buff or nerf is fair. I do not know how hard it is to change, remove, or add stats to those weapons. I am not a veteran of this game. My first game in TF2 was on Banana Bay on a MacBook Air. Since I joined the game after Meet Your Match, I don't know what the weapons were like beforehand, and maybe I don't know the unfair ones now. I only have about 2,500 hours in this game, and I take long breaks sometimes, so I may be wrong in my assessment. My reviews are subjective. I'm a human being with bias and flaws. I'm initially reviewing these weapons based on how I feel about them, and then doing the math later. So if the feeling is wrong, then the math will be as well, and then the review. So don't take my word as law, it is simply what I feel about it, even though I may present it as factual. To prevent clutter in future videos, this will be the only time I say it. Other times will be mentioned in the description. Now, with that out of the way, let's begin with the most infinite of weapons even in the current time. The Scorch Shot. The Scorch Shot The Scorch Shot stats include dealing The Scorch Shot stats include dealing guaranteed mini crits against players already on fire if the flare itself hits the burning player. When the flare hits this player, burning or not, it slows them down for a second. The flare deals damage on hit, falls to the ground, then explodes on impact. The explosion on impact does not require a player to trigger, as the flare has an area of effect explosion when it hits anything. Upon players already on fire, the knockback is farther. All of this comes at a cost of a negative 35% damage penalty compared to the flare gun, and a lower jump height compared to the flare jump of the detonator. Some unwritten stats are the aforementioned flare jump. If you aim at the ground, jump, and crouch, similar to a rocket jump, you can propel yourself upwards. This works best on the detonator at the expense of more health loss and an extra step, exploding the flare. Other stats include the 420 damage kill taunt and the removal of sticky bombs. Now, the main issue with this gun isn't the almost non-existent downside, but rather the long afterburn resulting from the wide explosion. All things considered, this flare gun deals a total of 60 damage over 7.5 seconds. If you're on fire, it deals 80 damage over 10 seconds. With an explosion radius of 2 meters, you've essentially just given Pyro a rocket launcher that deals damage over time. This damage over time is both a blessing and a curse compared to the rocket launcher. If you're hit by a rocket, well, that's 90 damage to your face, and that's that. But if you can avoid it, no damage. With the Scorch Shot, you only have a small window of time to dodge, given that the velocity of the flare is twice as much as the rocket. And when that thing hits you, you gotta suffer for the 60 damage or find a health kit. And there ain't always one lying around. Given how easily you can spam this gun with a 2-second reload and 16 flares on hand, you can seriously do a bunch of damage with this gun. The mere fact of how easy it is to hit someone and do that much damage should be testament to this weapon's need for some kind of nerf. The theoretical damage output of this gun, flares on hand and afterburn all considered, is about 960. Not too impressive given that his stock flamethrower has a total damage output of 3,445. But it's not the damage, it's how brain dead you can be to use this effectively. While, yes, you can still solo 3 heavies with this gun alone, the trick to using it is shoot their feet. It's literally like playing soldier. So this gun is decent, I guess. It's just annoying to fight against. It's really easy to hit someone with the flares, and the damage you deal for doing so is greater than the effort you put in. As for a balance change, well, I told you I'm not a game designer. A few months ago, the Scorch Shot was on my personal list named Weapons Beyond Redemption. These weapons, in my opinion, were fundamentally broken or overpowered in some way that removing the one broken or OP aspect of it would destroy it entirely. I since dissolved the list, since every flaw can be fixed somehow, but they require a complete overhaul. The Scorch Shot is the least extreme of these changes. The main issue with this gun is how easy it is to inflict such high damage. So good places to start would be deciding how to make the Scorch Shot take more skill to use or to decrease the damage it does. Remove the area of effect, remove the stun lock on hit, decrease the total damage, decrease the afterburn time. These are all decent changes. Perhaps someone more confident than me can come up with something more creative than a fusion between the detonator and the flare gun and give the Scorch Shot its own unique identity. Until that time, I would say that the Scorch Shot is busted, not overpowered. The skill it takes to inflict damage and the damage you get for doing so is very unbalanced. Not only is it easy to hit one person, but the reward for firing upon a group is all that damage multiplied by how many people were standing in that radius. The ridiculous stun lock, the almost non-existent downside, the long afterburn, and the ease of use make the Scorch Shot a busted weapon. It's annoying to fight against, and it's too easy to use. A nerf is necessary for its future. And that's about all I've got for this gun. Not much more I can say. If you enjoyed, or if I convinced you, or even if I just made your hate for this gun worse, let me know in the comments and maybe like the video. I plan on doing this for more weapons that I consider busted or OP, as well as some weapons that used to be that way in the past. I think it's a fun topic to think about, even if it is probably way overdone, and I may be completely wrong in my assessment. Anyway, I have more weapons planned for this series, and I'll churn them out when I feel like it. Until then, I hope you enjoyed this one, stay tuned for the next weapon, and I shall see you all when it releases. Bye bye.